Hey guys, potential shift here. Trade like it's 2026, not 1996. Welcome. I hope you can make the shift. Today we're going to be talking about something super important that nobody else talks about. It is the emotional tax of each trade. And in other words, how much does a trade affect you emotionally, and how much is that costing you? Because those costs are very, very real, and you have to start thinking about them. So right now, everybody is talking about Iran, right? The strike on Iran, how to trade it, oil prices, defense stocks, war, stagflation. But almost nobody is talking about the question that actually matters here to retail traders, which is, even if I pick the right direction, am I going to be able to trade it profitably, or am I going to get whipsawed and lose money? And it's what I call the emotional tax of a trade. It is the difference between picking the right side of a trade and whether you can actually execute the trade profitably. These are two very different things. Because a lot of the time, the market isn't testing your thesis. It's not testing whether you're right or wrong directionally. It's testing your emotional limits. Put simply, emotional tax is the difference between your mathematical edge and your real edge. The current situation in Iran is a great example of a high emotional tax trade. It's a major geopolitical event. There's strong directional opinions on both sides from many participants, and massive volatility is almost a given here. So this market's going to have a lot of chop without a lot of directional commitment. And those are the highest emotional tax environments. Problem with trading news like this isn't guessing the right direction. Problem is the path you're going to have to take to get there, the pullbacks and the tests you're going to have to endure, the suffering along the path until you get to your target. Those are very real costs, which you have to begin to factor in before you place a trade. Emotional tax is the psychological cost required to execute a trade correctly. It's real and it's tangible, if a little tricky to define, and it sure as heck has cost you a lot of money in the past and will continue to do so. You don't start factoring it into your trades. It's time to give it a name, and it's time to start thinking about it before you place a trade. Again, the formula is mathematical edge minus emotional tax equals actual edge. So what causes and adds to emotional tax? First and foremost, this one's easy, volatility. Pullbacks, drawdowns, you're going to have to sit through. Fake out moves and mop-ups, all right? Volatility is by far the number one cause of emotional taxation. What else? Low conviction. If your original starting conviction is low and you don't feel really confident on the trade, you're going to naturally be more emotionally stressed during that trade. What else? Barrage of news that's constantly coming at you that's going to make you think twice about your trade. This Iran story is a great example. There's going to keep being news coming at you. Bam, bam, a new attack, or maybe peace talks, this, that. The more news you have to absorb, the more decision points there's going to be, and the more stressed out and the more taxed you will be during your trade. How you feel that day, all right? What's going on in your personal life is relevant. You know, if you're extremely stressed out already, if your baseline stress is here to begin with instead of down here, you're going to be more stressed by any trade you make. Time itself, how long you have to hold a trade, causes more emotional taxation, all right? Because the longer you hold a trade, the more channeling you're going to see in it, the more ping pong action, the more time to second guess it. So time itself is a huge emotional taxer. And one of the last things is emotional tax is cumulative, all right? It adds up trade after trade, day after day. And I'm going to talk more about that in a second. Okay?
Holy Christ. Holy Christ. Holy Christ, there's nothing left.
So, what are some great examples of emotionally taxing plays? All right, we've already named one. Volatile news stories like Iran, geopolitical events, all right, big time. Bubbles are very difficult to play, and you got to hold through big swings on them, emotionally taxing. Any play that you have to sit in longer than a time horizon that you're naturally comfortable with is going to be an emotionally taxing play, all right? You have to know yourself and you have to know your own time horizons, or else you're going to get stuck in a trade that's going to stress you out above the threshold that crosses from profitability into a losing trade. And the algos and the market itself, they know the breaking points where most traders are going to cross that line from I can still hold this and be profitable into I am too stressed out, I am exiting, and now I'm going to take the loss. Right? That's why the market always seems to know exactly the moment you exit a trade, does the exact opposite. All right? The algos and Wall Street, they are tuned in and programmed to hit those pain points. So what can you do about it? First, you have to be aware of it. Name it. Think about it. Before you place a trade, how much emotional tax is this play going to cost me? If you have a mathematical edge, you think you know where a stock or the market is headed, you still have to think about how much stress is this trade going to cause me? This is where a lot of traders blow up their accounts. They pick the right side, and then the play plays out, and it turns out they're right. I picked the right side, but they got stopped out. And nothing will put a trader on tilt faster than knowing they were right than getting stopped out. I mean, that is when traders go on tilt, start revenge trading, and accounts blow up, right? So cut yourself some slack and ask yourself, I might be right about the direction here, but is it still a good play? Because even if I am right, if the stress and emotional tax of the play is too high, it's a bad trade.
Because you will fail.
For me personally, it's taken me a lot of years to learn this, but I've learned that I'm not a swing trader. I'm not an endurance trader. I like my moves fast. I like momentum. I like my moves to go in a straight line in the direction that I picked. All right. I don't want to deal with many pullbacks or drawdowns. In other words, I like low emotional tax plays, and I am not very good at handling other types of trades. Some of you out there, you're going to have different styles. Everybody's going to have their own threshold for how many pullbacks and how much stress within their trade that they can endure. So your strategy might be very different than mine. What's important, though, is that be realistic when you're about to enter a trade. You have to look at the trade. How long am I going to have to hold this? Is it within my normal time horizon? And is the stress of the pullbacks and the volatility, am I going to be able to handle that? So before every trade, you need to think about two questions, not just one. First one's easy. Do I have an edge, right? Do I know which direction the market or a stock is going to go in? And we all ask that one. But number two, you have to ask, is that edge executable? If both of those questions aren't a yes, then being flat is also a position. And one last thing on the emotional tax stuff, and an important one to understand. I mentioned it before. It's cumulative, all right? Yes, each trade has its own emotional taxation, but this stuff adds up trade after trade, day after day. This is why accounts blow up, because people reach a breaking point where their cumulative stress and their cumulative emotional taxation has built up to the point where they can no longer think or trade correctly. So be aware of your own cumulative stress levels and taxation levels. And if it's in a bad place, take a break or take only trades that you know are going to be very, very low tax.
Motherfuckers!
Remember, guys, Wall Street isn't just trying to outpick you or outguess the direction, all right? They are trying to do. They're trying to throw you off the scent of where markets are actually headed, but it's also trying to outlast you, like Survivor, all right? Or the show Alone. You know, us retail traders, we're out here alone. We're doing it by ourselves. Wall Street, they've got a team, they've got a boss, they've got rules, they've got support, and they've got machines and algos executing their trades, all right? They are looking to use all of those advantages against you because you don't have them, and you have a lot of emotions that you have to control and deal with, all right? Emotionally compromised traders making high emotional tax trades are easy pickings. All right. Potential shift here. And this is particularly relevant today. Stop trying to pick winners. Start trying to be a winner. Subscribe for more tips on how to be profitable and other stuff Wall Street doesn't want you to know. Good luck, guys.